What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo live from Tijuana. Okay, so there's a lot to go through. I hope everybody's okay. We're gonna wait a little bit for people to start coming in. I'm transmitting on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. Yes, there's a Psicoactivo Facebook account, one of the first I actually made, and there's also an Instagram account. I'm not transmitting there, just on Facebook. We have really a lot to talk about, but what we're gonna start with, and hi to everybody who's in here. Yeah, shout out to everybody who's in here. I see Matt from UFOs Around the World. I see Math and C. I see Heiser Sose, Timmer. Shout out to everyone here. Thank you for being here. Robert Vargas, expert opinion. Yeah, Jess, how you guys doing? I hope you're having a great week, even though the world seems to be burning down, but you know. Okay, so now that there's a little bit of you in here, what we're gonna start with, I think, and I'm really surprised that this came out because it has to do with my good friend Matt Beall from the Matt Beall podcast. A few weeks ago, I did a video on his work because he's been working to get permissions and permits from the Egyptian government through Dr. Sahi Hawass, who is like one of the gatekeepers in Egyptology. And he has a plan that he's been working on, and he just got permission for 3 missions to get inside of the pyramids to explore. During that video that I did share that I felt Matt's ultimate goal was not that. That was, like, in my understanding, the first step of a number of steps that eventually are going to end up in him getting access to drill underneath the pyramids. And the news today, and I did mention that one of the main scientists who's trying to find out what's going on underneath the Giza Plateau is Dr. Filippo Biondi, who, if you guys didn't know, he's the one who, using new radar technology, he saw a number of columns underneath the Khafra pyramid in the Giza Plateau. That's the second largest pyramid of them all. Those columns is like 8 of them right beneath. They go down for about 1.5 miles, 2 miles, something like that. And there's a massive space right beneath the columns. And I also did a video where I talk about Joe McMoneagle remote viewing something very similar to that. That was a really interesting development there. So this guy, Dr. Filippo Biondi, is going to be interviewed by Matt Beall tomorrow. They dropped a teaser where they talk about an alleged second Sphinx underneath the Giza Plateau. You guys know that there is the normal Sphinx that is sort of close by the 3 pyramids. This is what Dr. Filippo Biondi says on Matt Beall's podcast. I'm going to read what Matt Beall wrote, and then we're going to show the trailer or the teaser for tomorrow's episode, because this is dropping tomorrow, the entire episode. Matt Beall says, breaking news, Dr. Filippo Biondi makes major announcement on Matt Beall podcast. Filippo says he is almost certain he has found a second Sphinx beneath the Giza Plateau. He shares the math and scans to support his claims. In addition, Filippo fields direct and challenging questions for the first time about his scanning methods. Good on Matt for that. Is there a second Sphinx? Is the technology legit? How did he handle the heat? Find out in this week's episode of the Matt Beall podcast. So here's the trailer.
We've got a major announcement that you're making on this podcast for what you believe to be a second Sphinx.
Robert Duval told us that could be a second Sphinx. Why? Because there is the dream stele. symmetrical correlations, like the symmetry that we saw observing the dream stele. This is the small mountain that we are observing where the hypothetic position of the second Sphinx could be.
So those would be shafts coming down from the top. Does that indicate then that the second Sphinx would be hollow on the inside if the red is showing up?
Probably yes. We scanned the first Sphinx, all the pyramids, the conjunction between the Sphinx and the Khafre pyramid, and we found vertical shafts, horizontal passages.
This has the big void as a very long and rectangular shaped void.
Yes.
There hasn't really been an opportunity for you to address a lot of the questions that some of the skeptics might have about the work.
Thank you for this opportunity, Matt. Maybe the next will be Awara, and then other megalithic sites.
That is pretty wild. I don't know what you guys think, but I do want to talk about a little bit about Matt Beall, because my good friend Bert was the one who alerted me of Matt. When I first knew about him, the very first time I saw him, he was on a Danny Jones's podcast talking about the vases that he collects. And I didn't think much of him, really. I didn't know at the time that he had a podcast or that he was going to put up a podcast. Matt Beall is part of the Beall family, who own a bunch of stores called Beall's in the East Coast. So he has a lot of money. So what I see him doing right now with both his podcasts and all the efforts that he's doing is that he is using the power that he has and the money that he has to try and answer these unanswerable questions. And I will always welcome that from people who have this level of power and money. Robert Bigelow tried to do this for a long time, and he focused on the UFO topic, which has a lot of secrecy embedded into it. And he got to some places. I'm pretty sure that he saw some shit, but he eventually got burned out, I think. And that's why he decided to step back a little bit, sell the ranch and all that. Matt is doing something similar, but with the ancient civilization world. He's trying to get more eyes on these unanswerable questions and try to answer them. And I think that's very commendable. So tomorrow we're going to see, and I'm glad that he does this, because in his format, he always lets the guest talk about their whatever they're going to talk about, and then he does address questions that are considered skeptical, and I think that's healthy. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah. And I think that Matt does a brilliant job there. So tomorrow we're going to presumably see Dr. Filippo Biondi being challenged about the methods he uses to conduct his science and his investigation. And that's going to be really cool, because that is true. He's never had a chance to talk about those methods and address the more skeptical questions and the more denialism questions, because we know Egyptology and all of that topic of ancient civilizations also has a lot of secrecy surrounding it. So I think that this is a great opportunity to get to know what's going on there. But in my opinion, I think that Matt's ultimate goal will be to try and drill under there. And if he does it, that's going to be huge. In terms of the Sphinx, you saw what he's trying to do with math is trying to locate the exact position of the other Sphinx that is going to be as if it was like a turned around mirror of sorts. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but it is exciting. And I think that Matt is the person to make all of those things happen. A little side note on Matt. He's also part of the leading investigation into Kurt Cobain's case, the new information that just came out. So he's not just doing this type of issues. He's also getting into other stuff like that. So and he has the means to do it. I applaud him for that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. When we get to the questions section at the end of the show, if you want to ask something about this, put it in all caps. But right now, we're gonna go to the second topic of the day, which is gonna be the Vatican. There is a new uh, article that came out a few days ago from the New York Post that I just gotta show you guys, because it talks about the Vatican and it talks about this sort of philosophy that is starting to take more strength in the world, which is this belief that Satanism and occultism and all this is surging at the moment around the world. And I think that this also like was sort of triggered by the whole Epstein's file debacle, because anybody who looks at Epstein files, I think that it's you can confidently think and say that there is something really dark and horrible about a lot of these people. So naturally, the ones who are more inclined to believe in the spirituality and the whole supernatural aspect of like the Tucker Carlsons of the world, they naturally think that this is some kind of demonic thing. Um, I don't know if I agree with that, because that is not part of my belief system, but I am exploring it because there's a lot of people that think this way and that believe that this is real. So let me read this article to you, and we're going to talk about this exorcist from Italy, whose name is Gabriele Amor. He was born in 1925. Um, and there's a movie that was created in his honor. So let me read the Pope Leo hosts Exorcist Summit at the Vatican over fears of worldwide search in Satanism, written by Anthony Blair at the New York Post. The devil's in the detail. Pope Leo XIV hosted the world's most senior exorcists at the Vatican, who reportedly warned him of a terrifying global rise in occultism, esotericism, and Satanism. The Chicago-born head of the Catholic Church held a private meeting with a delegation of Catholic priests from the International Association of Exorcists this month, according to EWTN Vatican. Quote, they presented a report on the growing prevalence of cases related to occultism, esotericism, and Satanism, and the spiritual consequences they believe this has for many people, end quote, the outlet reported. Quote, during the meeting, the association asked the pontiff to ensure that every diocese in the world has one or more adequately trained exorcist priests, end quote. Father Francesco Bamonte, AIE vice president, said ignoring these concerns, quote, leaves many faithful without an adequate response to grave spiritual suffering, sometimes pushing them toward inappropriate solutions. During the audience, the Pope was also presented with the book Guidelines for the Ministry of Exorcism, along with an image of Saint Michael the Archangel from the sanctuary of Monte Sant'Angelo. EWTN Vatican reported. The AIE, headquartered in Rome, is the subject of the 2023 movie The Pope's Exorcist, starring Russell Crowe. The Popo with the Pope was held on March 13, but was first reported on Monday. Leo, 70, has previously acknowledged the work of trained Catholic exorcists as delicate yet most necessary, by encouraging priests to live it both as a ministry of liberation and of consolation, accompanying the faithful truly possessed by the evil one with prayer and the invocation of Christ's effective presence, LA Mag reported. So this only tells you that, and based on the release of the Epstein files, this only tells you that there seems to be this sense of urgency because of everything that's happening. Because we seem to be heading towards, and we already are sort of, but like a global conflict where a lot of other countries may get involved. And that is part of this that is driving this. Um, I don't know whether evil is an external force to humans in the world. I happen to think that humans have the capability of both evil and love equally, but we make the decision for ourselves. Um, to blame an external force of the horrible shit that people do, I think it's giving them a pass to get justice and retribution for their crimes. Because to me, they're not sins really; they're crimes. Um, that's just a personal opinion that I have, and I can speak on this a little bit more because I've told you before in this channel, my godfather from my first communion, because I did grow up a Catholic. Um, his name is Ricardo. He used to run around with one of Guadalajara's most important exorcists around the country. And he saw a lot of that with his own eyes. So this guy is like basically like my grandfather right now. Um, and I'm very close to him. And when we talk about this, I don't sense that he's lying to me, really. I just think that maybe he just doesn't really understand what he's seeing. Um, and yeah, it's difficult because you grow up with a certain philosophy that is embedded in you for your entire life, and a lot of that is also written in ancient scripture. So there's a lot of people that take it at face value, but I think that, and I've talked about this before, a lot of that scripture from the past is just interpretation from those times by the people who are living in those times. I think that if scripture was written today about events similar to those, we would have a very different interpretation of it. And I think that, and I've also talked about this before on the channel. I think that Dr. Gary Nolan's work and the coded putamen and what he found in the brain and the basal ganglia. This is something that Jacobo Greenberg also investigated quite extensively. He investigated the coded nucleus, which is what covers the putamen, right? So, what he found there, and this is just a personal opinion and also interpretation on my part, but um, it's been alleged that the coded putamen is what like helps intuition in a human, in a brain. And I think that that discovery will probably eventually get to a point where we understand it better. And many of those cases of alleged exorcisms are just going to be something along the lines of an oversized coded putamen that is just all over the place getting signals from different things that we can't see with our eyes, but that doesn't mean they're not there, you know? That's what I think happens with people who are going through that, that they're just all over the place. The brain is an antenna, and when it's heightened, all of that, you can only imagine what comes across people who have this. And naturally, that interpretation, that fear, that historical um, sort of anthropology that exists within the religions, that's going to kick in instantly when you see something that you don't understand. You're going to go to the base explanation that you know, not the base explanation that is. I don't know if I explain myself well, but um, I think that may be what could be happening. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and demons are definitely real. People like Tim Alberino certainly think so, but I just don't. I don't subscribe to that. Um, but maybe they have information that I don't, so who knows. I keep going back to Patrick Harper and The Daimonic Reality. That book is wonderful to anybody who hasn't read it, and he tries to get a more baseline explanation for many of these uh, things that people see and have reported seeing for generations. People from the Celtic tradition, for example, they reported fairies and gnomes for a long time. Here in Mexico, we report um, skinwalkers, which we call nahuales, and the shamans that have existed forever. Some people have reported other things like luches and other types of strange creatures that they see. This has happened forever. So, um, what I think is that there is a heavy influence of whatever happened back then, thousands of years ago, in those religions in today's world. And that is a lot of what's driving today's conflicts, that misinterpretation of facts and historical facts at that. I'm not saying that supernatural or hard to explain things did not happen back then. They may well have. And I do believe that something did happen then. I just don't think it's what people interpreted back then. That's just an anthropomorphization of it. You can fight me in the comments. I'm not going to listen to you. That's just my opinion. I'm okay with being wrong. I just need to see evidence of the contrary, So, and it's impossible to get evidence that the Bible is 100% accurate. I talked about this a little bit with Jason Somoza in one of these lives a couple Mondays ago. So yeah. Okay, let me read a few comments before I continue with today's programming because I'm a little bit behind. Taken from Paul Laviolette's website, Timmer says the Aker Sphinx of ancient Egyptian mythology was believed to serve as the portal for the rising and setting sun. Interesting. Okay, let's see what else. Okay. Doing a great job with the live shows, Primo. Thank you, Muffin. Keep up the good work. A lot of talk about portals lately. Any feedback? Not for now. Not for now. I am trying to get Grant Cameron on the show because if somebody has heard about portals a lot, it's that guy. So I'm going to try to get him back on the show to talk about this a little bit more. But so far, I don't have anything really. Thank you for the question. Okay, let's see what else we got. Powell, have you seen the Pope's Exorcist from Scott Powers' art? I have. I don't like scary movies that much, if I'm honest with you. I like the gory ones because I think they're just too gory and I get a kick out of them. Weird. But the ones like this one and others like The Ring or Ringu, which is the Japanese version, those scare the bejesus out of me. And I just can't help it. Fun fact, and you guys are going to laugh at me, but I don't give a shit. When I was like 13 or 14, I went with my mother to see The Others from Guillermo del Toro. And it was so scary to me that I took my mom out of the theater because I was too scared to watch the movie. Sorry, I know. TMI. Sorry. I don't feel embarrassed about it, really. Yeah, I don't like scary movies. My wife gets a kick out of that too. Howdy, Mr. Justin. How you doing, my buddy? Welcome to the show. Okay, shout out to UAP James. I'm gonna do like a recording. I'm just gonna press a button and it's gonna say, shout out to UAP James. Shout out to Joe Murgia. What else? If you're okay with it, hello to Anjali. Anjali, how you doing? If you're okay with it, I'm gonna continue with today's programming because there's a lot to go through. The first thing after this that I am going to show you. Oh no, this is what I'm going to show you. There's another update of Mark Christopher Lee's interaction with Robert Bigelow, and I got to show it to you because I want your opinion on it. So here it is. This is Grant Lavac, who is an Australian UFO researcher who does great work. And he asked a fair question to Mark after he released the update that I gave you yesterday of Robert Bigelow and Donald Trump. And he asked, in the spirit of transparency, Mark, will you post the actual correspondence you claim to have received from Robert Bigelow? Then somebody said, my prediction is nope. And then Mark did post it, which surprised me. He covered the email, but this is the email that he got, presumably yesterday. And it's the same. So he's presenting what is, and then Grant thanked him for it. I still, sorry, but that's just like me being a stickler for the details. I still want to see Robert coming out and talking about this. I still do. And I'm sorry, Mark, I got nothing against you, man. And you've been showing this like what you can. But I think honestly that what Robert did, I don't know if he did it on purpose or not. But I think that's a little bit unfair because you went out on a limb and he needs to come forward because it's hurting you more than him, really. And I don't agree with it, man. I'm sorry. And I got nothing against Mr. Bigelow, but if he already was talking to people like this, he shouldn't have done that in the first place if he didn't want it out. But now that it's out and Mark is presenting receipts here, granted, that could very well be a faked image, but he's presenting receipts. And I did ask around, not to him, obviously, to people that I know would have answers from Bigelow. And they did confirm that the communications were happening, but I still need to see Bigelow coming out. I still do. And I think everybody agrees here, right? I don't know. Thank you to Angela for the membership. Thank you so much. If you want to activate those memberships, I think there's a little 3 dots in the right corner where you can activate them. And if you want to claim it, that's just for you guys. I think this guy got it. Prison Mike. I think so. Thank you, Angela. That was really nice of you. So what else? Okay, so that's that. Tell me whatever you think about this, about the new receipt that Mark Christopher Lee just delivered. Okay, so on to the next one, which I think is really concerning. It has to do with all of these scientists that seem to be disappearing. There's a double feature that was presented by one by Fox News, and the other one was from Benny Johnson, who spoke to Congressman Tim Burchett. And we're going to go through it in a little bit. Let's play Burchett first, if you're okay with that. And then we're going to go through the Fox News one. So here is Burchett right here. Okay. From Benny Johnson, it says big. Representative Tim Burchett says UFO scientists found dead after testifying to Congress about UFO files. Let's hear what he has to say. There's a list of mysterious disappearances or deaths. They start with General McCaslin, and then Monica Reza, who worked under him, and then MIT fusion physicist Nuno Loureiro, Caltech astrophysicist Carl Grillmer, and Novartis scientist Jason Thomas. I didn't know about that one. So let's hear what Burchett has to say here.
GOP suggests there might be a conspiracy play. Well, they ought to start thinking there is, because the FBI shows up when the guy's missing. He had some, everybody's thinking it's UFO, but he had some nuclear secrets. There's just too many of them disappearing, Benny. Nothing happens by coincidence in this town or around this town. Something's going on. It was the week after the president announced he was going to start releasing some of those files too. So America needs to start paying attention.
Some of the UFO files?
Yep. And that may be coincidental, but we had several folks have left this earth or disappeared that had some close proximity to a lot of that. And that's been going on for a while. That's nothing new.
Do you have any direct knowledge? I mean, you've gone to these classified briefings. Do you have any direct knowledge of this? Did you know any of these guys?
Possibly.
So you're telling me that right after President Trump said to declassify all the UFO stuff, that the UFO experts that you have personal knowledge of and that you have personal connection to, they've gone missing or wound up dead?
Well, one did, the one everybody's looking for, and it's pretty, I don't know the circumstances. He left with a 38 in his holster, and you're never going to convince me otherwise. I don't care what they find. I don't care what they find at this point. My wife said it the other day, how does somebody disappear in this day and age? How do they disappear?
Looks like this
and
is.
I just think there's a lot going on. We got to get to the bottom of it. And and I talked to the president about that. He asked me what I thought, and I said, Mr. President, I think it's like an onion. You just keep peeling it back. There's that lady right there. She had metallurgical knowledge, some of our missiles and stuff, and it's just too much, Benny. Too much is going on right now.
Advanced aerospace propulsion and plasma physics, fusion and rocket tech is the individual who's recently gone missing. Well, that sure as hell sounds like working on the UFO project. Right?
Yeah. Well, in every department, and I see NASA right there, and NASA says they don't have anything. We don't have any files. We don't have any. Well, what the heck did I get briefed on by those knuckleheads? I'm over it. I'm over it. We're not going to get this. And when I'm told in a setting that the president is on some of this stuff is on a need to know basis, I mean, what the heck does that mean?
Start keeping it.
That's the issue right there.
They're withholding from the commander in chief information.
I think so. I 100% do. And I don't know how you get it back. I mean, what do you fire a whole department? I mean, everybody says, yeah, you ought to do that. Well, you can't do that. There's national security implications. There's all this other stuff. So you got to put the people in charge. I think that's what Trump's done. And that's another reason they want him out. Well, these old timers up here in both parties don't like it because he's rocked their boats, upset their little retirement plans.
I know you got to go, Congressman, but you're telling me that Independence Day is like the scene in Independence Day where the president walks down in Area 51 and they're like, oh, this was just a need to know basis. Well, why the hell didn't you tell me? This is a need to know basis. You're telling me that's real?
I don't think it's quite like that. You'd have too many people that would know. You can't keep anything secret these days, but you could have one. You could in the old days. I mean, you could. I mean, I had a guy discuss with me something that happened to him in the 50s, and he was told not to talk about it, and he just wanted to get it off his chest, I guess, before he passed. But I don't think it's quite like that. I don't think they're at Area 51 or whatever. I think that's just too obvious.
No, I'm just saying, like, the scene itself.
I know the
president. They tell the president, well, we didn't tell you because it's a need to know basis, and you don't need to know. Yeah,
I think that's right. I think that is clearly right, because you're never going to get to the base of these people unless the Lord takes them out.
And that's not all. That was Bridget saying that. What I'm going to show you now is a well put together Fox News report of this case that I think is very interesting. And I think we should watch, because there's a part of the conversation where a former FBI official talks about this very matter-of-factly. And I found that really unexpected, really. So here it is, Jesse Waters.
Police are searching for a retired Air Force general who vanished in New Mexico. William McCaslin went missing last month. Members of Congress are warning this could be a national security issue. The general was involved with the Pentagon's most advanced aerospace research. He oversaw a classified space weapons program. McCaslin was in charge of the Air Force Research Lab at a base in Ohio. It's rumored that base holds extraterrestrial debris from the Roswell crash site. The general was tied in with the UFO community. A source told the New York Post the general was a gatekeeper for anything UFO related in the Air Force. He retired due to mental fog, but investigators say he's still highly intelligent and capable. McCaslin was an avid hiker. His wife last saw him leaving with a backpack and a .38 revolver. No phone, no glasses. He disappeared 6 days right after Trump announced he was releasing the UFO files. And he's not the only one. 8 months before the general vanished, a rocket scientist who worked under him years ago also went missing. She was hiking in California with 2 other people. They saw her smiling and waving 30 feet behind them. When they turned back again, she was gone, vanished in plain sight. They searched for days and couldn't find any trace of her. This is a very, very strange situation. And 11 days before the general disappeared, another scientist was shot dead on his porch. Carl Grillmar was known for discovering signs of water on a distant planet, and he was gunned down in California. Freddie Snyder was later charged with his murder. He has a rap sheet, but was let out of jail by a Newsom-appointed judge weeks before he allegedly killed the scientist. We still don't know his motive. And we don't know if these cases are even connected. But this many top scientists getting killed or going missing in just under a year looks like a major red flag. Chris Swecker is a former assistant FBI director. Chris, the mind goes right to a foreign intelligence service. Is that where your gut tells you this is going towards?
Well, yeah, it is, Jesse. I mean, I understand the UFO angle has a lot of interest, and people love to kind of dabble in that area with their theories. But if you look at these two, they were both involved in very, very sensitive rocket propulsion programs associated with missiles and space travel. And there was one particular piece of technology, certain type of metal that really liberated us from having to rely on Russian Soviet technology back in the day. So it's really sensitive stuff, and I'm not a big believer in coincidences. So, if I were heading up the FBI field office or the FBI right now, I would have a full team on this one just to make sure. I mean, I'd look at everything, dissect their lives, and just see if there's any connection to some hostile foreign intelligence service. They want that information. They've been working to get it for years and years. India, Pakistan, even some of our friends are trying to get that type of technology from us, and they'd stop at nothing to get it.
Yeah, we did hear reports that the UFOs that were recovered are being exploited to, I guess, take advantage of whatever technology that's so advanced so we could apply that to our military. And there's kind of an arms race. Who could ramp up this UFO technology the fastest? Would that be a motive, and also a financial motive too?
Well, I mean, the motivation to get your hand.
This is wild as a response because he didn't say no. And he held a high position in the FBI, and he didn't say no. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I thought that was really interesting. I want to thank Angela for this super chat that I'm going to read to you. Dr. Nuno Loureiro, a 47-year-old MIT professor and director of the Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Then the very next day, Trump invests in the plasma fusion. Josh from Polarity covered the murder. He did. I love Josh. Thank you for the super chat. So let's continue with this, but note that he didn't say no. And they're talking openly on mainstream media, Fox News's mainstream media, regardless of what you think, or whether they're right wing or whatever. It's one of the biggest mainstream media outlets in the world. And they're talking about reverse engineering technology, UFOs, with somebody who held a high position in the FBI, and he's not denying what he's being asked. Unlike others who would. Like, if you ask somebody from Arrow, I can guarantee you what they would answer. If you asked Elon Musk, you guys know what he would say. He would go like, I see no proof of aliens. But not this guy. You got to ask yourself why.
Hands on that technology cuts both ways. You know, they would like to socially engineer their way into it, get it that way, get it through some sort of other methods that they use, or getting into our military bases with plants, and in some cases they'll compromise a scientist, and that, you know, that can lead to problem. Of course, to lead to problems. But he left with a .38 caliber weapon and a backpack and no wallet, no phone. So you wonder what he was really up to here. You know, did he anticipate not coming back? No wallet, no phone, and what was he doing with the .38 caliber weapon? So you wonder if he was, you know, if he had been compromised and he was going to, you know, take the extreme measures to deal with it himself.
Yeah, have you ever heard of situations where foreign scientists are abducted and then, you know, tortured for intelligence?
Yeah, there are examples of that. Most of them we haven't heard about. They're classified. But you know, the Israelis have done this with the nuclear scientists with hostile services that they've been very proactive in that area. We've taken a few of them out. That they have, maybe with our assistance, maybe not. And it wouldn't be the first time. It happened during World War II. We were targeting German scientists. They were targeting ours. And that's where that whole, you know, the whole aura around espionage sort of sprung up. You know, all the James Bond stuff around nuclear propulsion, space travel, you know, all of the weaponry that can come out of that through missile technology.
And you're ruling out this was an alien abduction. You're ruling that out? I'm not sure if you're a believer, Chris.
I'm not going to go there, Jesse. You know, that's I'll leave that to the people that love to delve in that area.
We're going to leave that to other people. We just we hope we.
He didn't say no, though, which I think was the main meat of this interview, that he didn't say no. That was interesting. So what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments right now. I see the comments are going a little wild, but the next order of business, and I'm sorry, but we got to talk about this, is this. We have a teaser of arguably, to me, one of the most exciting interviews that is coming, because I know that other people already interviewed this guy, but if you guys have been following Chris Ramsey, who's a friend of the show, if you guys have been following his career here, because he started as a magician with his YouTube channel, then he moved on to ufology. And he's always been fascinated by all the races and all that. And one of his shows of the Lacerda files made me understand that he wants to talk to an alien, essentially. And something that I always thought that would be cool would be an interview of him with David Icke. And man, oh man, it's happening. Tomorrow, this is going to happen. We got Chris Ramsey with David Icke. Apparently, Chris made the trip to the UK, I think, because that doesn't seem like the skiff. So it's going to come out. There's another photo that he just released that I got to show you guys. Very exciting. Oh, man. And I'm going to talk to you guys about this because there's a really cool Joe Murgia post about Dr. John Mack in one of his lectures about reptilians that I just got to play for you guys. But before we do that, I got to show you this picture because I thought it was really cool to see it. So here is sort of like a backstage image of this interview. Very exciting. And people give David Icke a lot of shit for a lot of the outlandish stuff. Oh, sorry. Tomorrow's Thursday. That's going to be Friday. Thank you, Matt, from UFOs Around the World. My bad. Yeah, Friday. That's going to be Friday. So there's a lot of people that have given David a lot of shit for. He thinks that there's like a reptilian cabal that is running the world, right? He always talked about how the British royalty were reptilians, and you know, all the dark shit that came out on the Epstein files, and all the dark shit that people like Alex Jones and Tim Dillon have been talking about. David Icke had been doing it since the 80s, I think. So I can't wait to see this conversation. But I do got to show you this from Joe Murgia, because this is an excellent post from one of the old lectures that Dr. John Mack gave about reptilians. And there's a lot of rumors and speculation about how Dr. John Mack passed away. He was killed in an accident. And this is Joe, because this seems to be one of Joe's biggest topics to cover, I think. And Joe says, the UFO phenomenon connects us beyond ourselves with all beings. Dr. John Mack. Greg is a physician in his 50s, and he has had a lifelong battle with his reptilian beings. They seem to struggle with him for his soul, Mack said. Then Ralph Blumenthal said that John Mack died before he and Barbara Lamb could finish their paper on reptilians. But we do have this lecture that I believe is from 2003. Quote, I was just walking through the living room in my house, and suddenly, to my enormous surprise, was a reptilian being, end quote. That's from Lamb. And then from John Mack, quote, one of my people I've worked with who studies shamanism, her encounters with the reptilians was much more of a kind of spiritual connection, end quote. So the long version, I'm going to leave it in the description, but I'm going to play you this. Thank you, Joe, for posting this, man. This is fantastic.
Now, I want to move on to this matter of the case of the reptilians. And you'll think this is a rapid change of direction, and it sort of is for at the moment, but not as much as you'll. I hope it won't seem too far from what I've been talking about. Well, you're familiar with the reptilian beings that experiencers encounter. They tend to, I don't know, this Will Boucher threw that one in. I don't vouch for this guy that's there. I mean, but they're described as tall, powerful, muscular, lizard-like, often with scales and a brow here and sort of a carapace on the chest, and they're sometimes they're said to not smell good, and writer David Chase referred to them as an ancient warrior race, proud, willful, domineering, territorial, physically aggressive, deceptive, emotionally manipulative, sexually intrusive, and potentially cruel. Their craft are Spartan, functional environments. In spite of their bad side, they also show a strong sense of duty and technical ability, and one reptilian was described as compassionate. Well, you know, it's so I'm just going to quickly tell you a few of the cases that I've had of people that have had reptilian encounters. Start with Greg. Now, Greg is a physician in his 50s, and he has had a lifelong battle with his reptilian beings. They seem to struggle with him for his soul. And he it's hard to know exactly how this began with him, but he, this is what I wrote about him at the time that I was working with him. He felt that certain reptilian beings were out to destroy him, seemingly out of a motive of revenge. They would do this by invading his soul and sucking the life energy out of me, out of my soul. It was unbelievably terrifying. He resisted these beings intensely, for he felt certain that his life had a purpose and that he must deal with this darkness and not suffer at the expense of it. But through this struggle, he discovered that the light is much stronger and the battle was actually empowering and even enlightening. He felt a compassion for their pain and didn't want to lose a total connection with them. I think I want in some way to participate in their getting in touch with their souls. He said of them, I don't love what they do to me, I do care for them. And Karen, who I wrote about in Passport, came upon in one of our sessions. We had many, many sessions, but she, for the first time, encountered what she described as encounters with ugly, scaly, lizard-like beings that seemed in some ways to represent her struggle with some reptilian energies of her own. But then I spoke with a native woman, a Peruvian shaman, about her encounters, and she said, in contrast to our kind of Judeo-Christian relationship to the reptilian beings, she said that the serpent energy was was an energy that she could enter into fully because she felt one with it. One of my people I've worked with who studies shamanism described an encounter with an anaconda like snake, and it twirled and it twirled and it twirled, and then it became like she was inside of a spaceship. So it was like her encounters with the reptilians was much more of a kind of spiritual connection.
And then there's another thing I'd like to share too, and that is an experience that happened to me personally in this lifetime just a very few years ago. I had already been doing a few years of regression work with experiences of extraterrestrial contact, including experience with some reptilian contacts. And one day, having done some appointments or whatever, I was just walking through the living room in my house, and suddenly, pop, right in front of me, to my enormous surprise, was a reptilian being. He was a little bit taller than I. Now, normally in this life, if I'd seen a reptile of any kind, even a little one, in my living room, I would have been really freaked out. I'm not very comfortable with reptilian beings. But anyway, with this experience, conscious, awake experience, I saw this reptilian being standing in my living room. I went right over to him, extended my hand, held his hand, looked into these beautiful, I thought they were beautiful, golden colored eyes with a little vertical eyeball, little pupil, kind of a lightning strike. And that's all that I remember consciously. But a few weeks later, I had a past life therapy colleague of mine do a regression on me to see if there was anything more to that experience. And to make a long story short, in the few minutes that that reptilian being was there, he said to me telepathically as we continued to hold hands, and I can still remember the feeling, the physical feeling of that hand, thick and strong and not creepy. I was surprised it wasn't creepy. And he reassured me that he is an ambassador from somewhere else, an ambassador representing many, many different extraterrestrial beings who come and interact with human beings. And he was here to tell me, as somebody who regresses people to these experiences, and sometimes because of my growing up in my conditioned mind, I wonder, could this really, really, really be true? It certainly seems as if it is. But he wanted to reassure me, for the sake of all those different species who come here, that yes, indeed, they do really exist. They do come here. They come here very quickly into our awareness, and they pop out they disappear from our awareness very quickly, and that it is a very meaningful phenomenon, and that we have no idea how important we are, that's you and me, all of us are to them. So for me, that was a very positive experience. And then just suddenly, he was gone, and I went on with my rest of my day.
All right, how do we put all this together? Now, well, I really can't put it all together, but but the experiences are real. They're also mythic. They reflect something deep in our own unconscious, our own instinctual natures. They have a powerful mythic dimension, which does not contradict the fact that they're real. They also, I think, this is a hypothesis, that this tremendous interest now that's happening in the reptilians represents a return of the repressed dimension of ourselves, which does not mean that there aren't real reptilian beings. You see that either orness that we've gotten into, it can be both. The internal and external, present and past, real, physical, and mythic. And perhaps some meaning for our culture in terms of what we've been hearing in this conference about the need to come to terms with everything about ourselves, including the darkest, most powerful, instinctual, sexual, aggressive forces. And that may have something to do with why this is such a contemporary subject. The UFO phenomenon connects us beyond ourselves with all beings, terrestrial and extraterrestrial. It opens us to a connection with nature, all of nature. It is the ultimate, along with many other anomalies, but it is the most powerful one I know to transcend the dualism, the polarity of the way we generally have come to think. It's not exclusive to the West. Polarized thinking is part of the human way of thinking, but to transcend that thinking, to experience our connectedness to all beings, to nature, I think this enables us to do that if we use it that way. It's a possibility that is there. I'm not saying that's what it is. I don't know what it is, but I think it offers us that possibility.
Dr. Mack was, in my opinion, one of the great voices in ufology. Really sad how he passed, and unexplainable too. Yeah, and this concept of the reptilian encounters is something that I've been told by people who have experienced it. I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And the few times that I've heard people telling me about this, it's a really harrowing, traumatizing experience for the people that I've heard it from. I know that there are other experiences that are not like that, but these that I heard are like that. There's one that this person reached out to me right after it happened. And I could sense that there was a lot of fear in this person when they were talking to me about it. So I was like, you definitely saw something, but I mean, if I can't see it myself, it's difficult, you know? But what is true is that there's a lot of people that have allegedly seen these things, these reptilians. And yeah, it's the same thing with the abduction experience. It's the same thing with the contact experience. It just changes the being, I guess. And the reports are real. Like in real life, there are people who constantly report on this. Whether it is exactly what they think it is or not, that's still debatable, I think. Thank you to David Ungar. Anyone interested in John Mack should check out The Believer by Ralph Blumenthal. It's an excellent book. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. David has, I think it's a channel called Attitude of Aggression, I think. He talks about a lot of wrestling, so it's fun. I used to like wrestling a lot. I don't dislike it, but I don't watch it anymore, really. I'm from the Attitude Era, so Stone Cold all the way, baby. Okay, so here's another super chat. Thank you to Raffaello. Keep up the great work. Thank you, man. Thank you. I guess you're in Britain, so thanks, man. So what do you guys think about this? Reptilians. Honestly, I don't know what to think. When I saw Jason Sands mentioning it on Joe Rogan, that gave me a pause, really, because I think there's a lot of mixed things inside of Jason's head. I think he means well, but I also think has gone through a lot, and that has affected him, I believe. So when it comes from him, somebody like him, it's harder to believe than when it comes from somebody like Dr. John Mack, who's a Harvard psychologist who was threatened to get his license removed and died under mysterious circumstances. It was an accident, yeah, but uh, Ralph Blumenthal did report on that. And I do have something that I want to share a little bit with you. I can't talk about it much, but there is a piece of media that is going to drop on Saturday about Dr. John Mack, where they're going to address a little bit of this, his death, though. And I can't wait for that. I can't tell you more, really, because it's not mine to tell, but just be on the lookout on Saturday for that drop, because it's going to be pretty significant. Anybody who follows Dr. John Mack is going to want to check this out. And then after it comes out, I'm going to try and give you the backstory of how that piece of media came about, because it took almost a year to get it approved. And it's coming out on Saturday. So watch out for that one. Okay. Thank you to Sarah Andronicus. Thank you. Thank you. You rock too. That's really nice. What else? Okay, let's do a little bit of questions, if that's okay with you. Put them in all caps so we can start asking and responding. And I'll try and read as many as I can. Here's another super chat from Wes Decker. Thank you for the super chat. Take this for what it's worth, but I had a dream about a reptilian once wearing a robe and who was growing mushrooms. Funny, I know. But it definitely stood out to me. Cheers. Interesting. You guys remember that dream that Joe Rogan had also with those beings, and then they were sort of like trying to protect him from a pond that had reptilian beings in it? And he doesn't think it was a dream. That was scary and eerie, wasn't it? Okay. So what else? Oh, UFOs around the world did say something that I found really interesting that I hadn't heard before. He says that his experience with a reptilian involved his mother. That is wild. Let me show it to you. Here it is. Matt says, my reptilian encounter involved my own mother. I cannot explain it to this day, 36 years later. That is wild, man. If you can ever talk about it in detail, I would listen. Yeah. Here's another one from Just Cause. I just want to say congrats on the viewer sub increase. Thank you. Well deserved and happy to be able to witness. Always have loved what you do and will always continue to support. Thank you so much. Thank you. I do love what I do, if I'm honest with you. I enjoy very much scanning through the news of the day. This is something that I've always enjoyed, whether I'm doing soccer or this or other sports or politics, which I've done of everything. But I enjoy it so much. And I'm very glad that a lot of you are responding to the work that I'm doing. It just motivates me to keep going. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, what else? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. If you got any questions, please let me know. Here's one from Force. Powell, have you ever read the Matilda O'Donnell McElroy interview? A super twisted thing that fits the puzzle perfectly, hence the soul containers. I have not, but thank you. I'm going to write it down and I'm going to look at it. Thank you so much. Okay. Ooh, this is a great idea from Justin. We should have a gaming night in the Discord. I will play Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. All day. I'm a Zelda nut myself. I love Smash Bros. And Mario Kart, don't get me wrong, but I love the feeling of the field in the open world of Zelda. And I've been a Zelda nut since the 90s, since Ocarina of Time. So I know I'm old. So when the other two games came out on the Switch, I lost my shit. I was like, I lost complete contact with the outside world for like 3 months when Breath of the Wild came out. And I'm not ashamed to say it at all. Yeah, that was fun as fuck. Oops. Okay, what else? What else? Scott Powers Art says Diana Pasolka's work is a good perspective on the context of mythology and religiosity of abductions. Yeah, she does fantastic work. In fact, American Cosmic and the Encounters book are books that I really, really love. And people get confused with Diana. They think that she's like extremely religious and that that she's like a fundamentalist or something and that she believes everything. That is not the case, I don't think. I think that she is very objective with the way she covers everything and very scientific too. So I don't think she gets a good rep there, and I don't think she deserves it. She does fantastic work, in my opinion. So what else? Let's see. Thank you for all the comments. You guys are wonderful. Okay. From Mama Chola, who is now a mod. Thank you for helping out. I've heard that if a reptilian is around, they take the heat out of the room or whatever. You're automatically, it's something in their system. That's the only thing I've ever heard on reptilians. Oh, I've heard some wild shit on reptilians from people who have seen these, and they don't call them reptilians, they call them shapeshifters because something happens in their face that they see and they don't understand. And it's like shapeshifters, yeah. I've heard also that people like allegedly in the know, and I don't believe this, but I've heard, I'm telling you, that there are some type of reptilians that are kind of like Barney the dinosaur. I heard that. I don't believe it. And I cackled when I heard it. So funny. But imagine if something like that is real. And if you saw the Y-Files episode about the Draco reptilians, allegedly, and according to that, they have like insane telepathic powers that can make you puke and shit and piss all at the same time if they want to. That's scary. I hope that's not real. I don't think it is. I reject it. Okay. Justin says, Attitude Era 1000%. I had no business watching wrestling that young, but it was fun. Yeah, I was a teenager when that happened in the early 2000s. How old were you, man? Yeah, it was a bit much back in the day. Like it got even spicy and all that with McMahon and objectification of women that was running rampant there. I'm glad that changed now, but yeah, the Attitude Era was pretty wild. Okay, what else? What else? Oh, nice. Thank you for this. Jupiter Ascending is a great show with reptilians, the lizard people. Lizard people. Yeah, that's true. Okay, what else? What else? Bring on the questions, people. Here's another one from Sandro Minuto. Have you watched the episode of on Anomaly channel about remote viewing? I started watching that, but I had to do something else, so I stopped watching it. But it seems really cool. It seems really accurate. Um, yeah, I would recommend that. 100%. Thank you for reminding me that I have to watch it. Okay, what else? Thank you to Anun Win for the super chat. Pavel, what do you make of Bennett's Travis Walton video claiming it's a hoax? Patrick is not claiming it's a hoax. It's somebody else who came out to say that it was a hoax, somebody who was involved in the case. I haven't seen Patrick's video yet. I got a lot of stuff to do, but I will catch up to it eventually. Thank you for reminding me. What else? What else? What else? This is an interesting question from Nikora Waka. So are we supposed to trust the reptilians or fear them? I have no idea. I don't even know if they're real, man. All I can tell you is that there's people who believe they're real, who claim to have seen them. Some of them have really horrible experiences. Some of them don't. And if you did see that episode from Area 52, and if you read those files, the Lacerda files, even though the translation is kind of weird, or the English is kind of broken, you can tell that she explains that there's both good and bad, like humans. So I'll just respond with that because I don't really know. I've never seen one. Never even thought of like what it would be like to see one. If I'm honest with you, if those things exist, I want them as far the fuck away from me as possible. I don't want no contact with no reptilians. F that. Sorry, but yeah, I think most of you agree. And if you have had a positive experience with a reptilian, please share. I'll more than happy read your comment or whatever you put out there. Okay. Here's another one. Oh crap, there's a lot of messages. From Timmer or Timer. The remake of the TV show V is very interesting. Jordan Maxwell, RIP, talked about it in his Dawn of a New Day lecture video at the end. Thank you. What else? What else? There's a lot. Oh, this is good. Hey, Powell, did you watch the recent Kelly Chase video after watching it? I thought she's perfect for Doomer Friday every week. I agree. She's been on Doomer Friday like 2 weeks ago or something. Yeah, I saw like I'm like halfway through. Wonderful from Kelly. And she does cover large number of topics that I think interconnect with each other. And it's difficult to grapple with a lot of what's happening as a person that is not contaminated by money and power, as Kelly isn't either. We obviously see what's happening, and we can't help but just like laugh at the absurdity of it all, and how people seem to be like inert as they see things happening. And Kelly put it perfectly there that we prefer to like just like keep scrolling and remain distracted from reality due to the internet, and it prevents us from doing something out of this, because I maintain this and I just keep at it. I think that a Nepal situation is needed in countries like the US or Mexico too. Yeah, I think so. Although instead of just lynching politicians, cartel members also need to be lynched in my country, I think. Sorry, but that's just something that I've, when I saw what happened in Nepal, I was like, damn, man. It'd be really interesting to see that unfolding in countries like the US, or because we seem to be just lethargic. We don't seem to care if something happens unless it happens right at our doorstep, right? And it's unfortunate that it has to get to that point. Why can't we just like organize a little bit and you know, try and do something. We're not doing anything. And somebody's telling me that I have to be careful. Careful about what? Exactly. Like, they're already fucking us, you know? And nobody seems to be doing anything about it. The war keeps raging on, bombs keep being dropped everywhere, and we're doing nothing. Even though I'm talking about it and I'm speaking up, Josh from Polarity is speaking up. Jason Somoza is speaking up. Everybody's speaking up, like Gerb and everybody. That's what we can do from our platforms. But there's a very huge difference from that to like getting out in the streets and do something, you know? And it's really heartbreaking. And I completely share Kelly's sentiment there. It's frustrating. It is. And it's even more frustrating that, you know, fear is what is driving this apathy, I think. Because they made us feel like we're powerless over time. They've been socially engineering civilization for generations now. That's what they've been doing. And it's a system. It's a not that well-oiled machine anymore, but it's a really huge machine, you know? So yeah, I did watch it and it's fantastic. I recommend it 100%. What else? Sorry, but somebody asked, I had to answer. What else? What else? Careful, Pavel. Dude. Heiser says, nothing is more frightening to me than living my entire life not knowing the truth about our existence and reality, only to find out that it was all controlled lie. Yeah, I agree. And I guess that's what people who are like really curious and trying to find out what's going on want ultimately, right? That's what we want. We want to find out, why did I see those weird things when I was a child? What was that thing that I saw in the sky when I was a child? What was that reptilian looking thing that I saw when I was like 15? How did I speak to somebody else, to other people in the room without opening my mouth? How did that happen? I want answers from things like that. I've gone through things. What do near-death experiences mean? What are those things that communicate with people when you go through a near-death experience? That's been documented for decades. I want to know the answer of that. Is that connected to the UFO phenomenon? I think so, but I don't know for sure. I want to know. Okay. Negative experience here, rebuke the name in the name of Jesus, and it stopped. But just for when, if it happens to you, Powell. Thank you. I'm going to tell you something that happened, and I know that I criticized Chris Bledsoe quite a bit. Mostly his son, though. But 2 years ago, I was in a Twitter space with Paul, shout out to Paul, and other people from the UFO community. At the time, there was a lot of people that were experiencing orbs, and they were documenting them on X. And we were on a Twitter space, and Paul was outside watching what he thought were orbs. And when he was watching them, he was laying down on the grass. And this happened live on a Twitter space. Somebody mentioned Chris Bledsoe's name. And when that happened, Paul started going crazy because he said that the orb started just like flickering. And I know that there's going to be people that are going to come out and say, oh, that was a satellite. Maybe. But that happened. And it's weird. I don't know what that means. I don't even know where Jesus really came from, you know? Like, for all I know, he was just like a cosmic being that came to teach people how to be cosmic beings as well. That's just like the baseline definition of what I think Jesus might have been. Nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with God, just a cosmic being. So yeah, let me show you another one. What are your thoughts from the Decipher on the cases of ex-MUFON Joe Jordan C4 project? He documented hundreds of abductions that stopped by invoking Jesus Christ. Does this make the phenomenon spiritual? It's possible. I'm not gonna deny that there isn't a sort of like a spiritual component, and it seems to be moving towards that more and more. And since I didn't grow up with that belief at all, really, even though I was raised a Catholic, I was always like, really, I can't really subscribe to that until I see something with my own eyes. But it's possible. I'm not going to deny it. Okay, what else? This is a good question. Do you think it's a good idea to close Arrow? Could Doge just go in and size things like they did with Social Security? This is an interesting question that I wanted to address because people who are like denialists and criticize folks like Dylan Borland and Matthew Brown and all that, it's a really weird thing to do, that you praise Arrow and say, oh, if Arrow says it, therefore it's true. Or why would you not listen to what Arrow is doing? Why would you refuse to support Arrow? And they criticize people like Dylan and Matt and David Grush. It's really weird because why are you supporting the one entity that the Pentagon decided to put up to investigate itself of crimes? Listen to that sentence. Tell me how it makes sense. Why would you support an entity raised by the Pentagon that is supposed to investigate itself of crimes? How do you think that's going to go about? It just makes no sense to me. And that's why I think just like praising Arrow and thinking that Arrow has the answers is just wrong. And I'm not talking just about Kirkpatrick. There seems to be something about them that seems to control the thing and the information flow. And we just don't know who those people are. There's supposed to be like a council of Arrow that was mentioned at one time. I want to know who those people are. I want to know their names and see if they may have a different agenda. Yeah. What else? Let's see. Herb. What else? What else? Okay, here's another one. Heidi Tembelde. Are you maybe interested in more information about the black unit? Others call it black hole. I'm willing to offer you my personal experiences with it. Just let me know. Warm greetings. I've never heard of that before. If you enlighten me, that'd be really cool because I haven't heard of it. This is the first time I ever hear that being said, even. So let me know. Okay, here's another one. I recorded an orange orb in my garden flying around me, and it has an alien's face in it. I stood my ground when recording it, but it was scary. If you happen to have that recording and if it's close up, please send it my way. My email is in the description and I'll show it to everyone. Or if you want to just post it on your social media and let me know where it is, I'll watch it. But yeah, I'd love to watch that. How close was it though? Okay. What else? What else? Yeah. I'm gonna close the space. I mean the live stream soon, guys. If you haven't hit that like button, please hit it. How many likes do we have right now? Hold on. Just on YouTube, we have our 216 likes, and there's 430 people watching. If you guys could do me the favor, that helps the video reach more people. Please do. Here's another one. Do you think there is any authenticity to the idea that the phenomenon is ultimately a vast ancient artificial intelligence that is driving us towards this singularity? Thoughts? Yeah, like my good friend Sander Jones does talk about this in his dead cosmic internet theory. I was gonna say dead internet, but that's not it. The cosmic internet theory. And I would recommend you watch that. It does make sense. Um, it does feel, and I've talked about this before, that a lot of this is driven by potentially or possibly some kind of ancient knowledge or ancient technology. And I don't know if that might be connected to it. If there is like some sort of language or that consciousness or the collective unconscious is that, you know? No idea, but certainly interesting to explore. What else? Let's see. All caps, people, all caps. Okay. Here's another one from the Decipher. Thoughts on Robert Bigelow's comments to George Knapp about the Skinwalker Ranch's hitchhiker effect. Is it a spiritual attachment or something else? No idea. I did talk about this yesterday, that might be the reason why he thinks, allegedly, according to Mark Christopher Lee, that he thinks disclosure is not going to happen as he thinks may happen or should happen. If any announcement comes, they're not going to mention the whole, paranormal aspect of the phenomenon because there is one. I don't think they're going to mention it. But I was talking about this earlier with someone. Just imagine if the announcement was made, there was an executive order made, and some of the files were released in those websites that were just put up. What do you think would be enough for the government to say this is real and people to start paying more attention to it and demanding more answers? And we know that if they do whatever they say, if they say one thing that is real, if they say Roswell did happen, we did recover bodies, if they say that, they acknowledge it and they present evidence for it, how do you think that would play out? What do you think would happen? For me, it just takes one thing out of all. And we will know for sure. And I know that most of you guys agree with this. Even if they do come out and say that, they're not going to talk about everything. They're not going to reveal everything. This is why the field is so important to like investigate every avenue, because everybody's looking into something different in terms of phenomena. We got people who are into demonology. We got people who are into the nuts and bolts. We got people who are into consciousness, portals, Bigfoot, all of that stuff, cryptids. So the idea is for us to learn from what people are finding out, from researchers. Whatever the government tells you, take it with a huge grain of salt because it's the government. But yeah, that official confirmation, I believe, is needed. I know that a lot of people don't agree. I believe it's needed. And it doesn't have to come from the government. It doesn't have to be. It can be like an astronomy lab announcing something. It can be even the Vatican announcing something. It can be a scientific paper that is peer reviewed and then repeated again and again, like what happened yesterday with Dr. Beatriz Villarroel. Congratulations, by the way. There was a different confirmation from an astronomy lab, an observatory, sorry, in Hamburg, Germany, that these transients were also captured by this observatory. And that was confirmed. And there's always going to be people denying it. That always comes with the territory. So, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's, I don't know what's going on there. I read Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Not sure I believe the Dino Beaver, if I'm honest with you. Maybe they saw something and that's how they interpreted it. But yeah, and the whole paranormal stuff, I know that there's people that experience a lot of things, but I would guarantee you that a lot of that is just misinterpretation of something they saw. But yeah, the whole aspect of precognition and NDEs and all that, that seems to be all connected. And whatever that is, I'm very interested to know what's on the other side. I know you guys are too. Okay, what else? Great question from Sandro Minuto. Pavel, don't you think that psychedelics might be the key to bring all the people together? I personally do. By researching, I'm realizing that it really changes people for the better, killing their ego. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I named my channel Psicoactivo, because even though I was away from that world when I opened the channel, I no longer party as it used to by any chance. I still think, and I still hold close to my heart the idea that I did learn a lot from those experiences, a lot of positive things, and they did change my personality for the better. But I'm also very aware that I need to tell people who are particularly young people who are like under the age of 25, I would not recommend them to experiment with any of that until after they're 25. And I know that probably the majority of you did it before you were 25. I did it too. So it's kind of hypocritical on my part, but that's what I learned. I think that those types of experiences that are so um, uh, traumatizing in many cases, if you live them before a certain age, you can get either confused or you can go through a really bad trip, and you can just go completely crazy, like medically crazy. And that is really dangerous. I've seen it happen. So I by no means in any way recommend that you do this or that you try psychedelics um, without it being controlled and before a certain age. After that certain age, I think your brain is sufficiently developed to experiment with these things and learn whatever you have to learn from them. But before that, I do not recommend it. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's just my opinion after it. And I know it's kind of boring, but I just can't condone um, the irresponsible use of psychedelic substances, as I did it a lot. And I know that there are probably a lot of things that I did back then that I will probably regret for the rest of my life. Nothing too horrible, just self harm shit, you know. I didn't hurt others. Um, but yeah, it's a tricky one. And I do think that psychedelics, if they're done properly and studied properly, we can find things about them that we probably have never known before. And I think that the ancient Romans, for example, they did understand the psychedelic substances way better than we did. And they understood the ritualistic aspect of them too. And I think that there's a reason that they were banned and stigmatized for so long. And it happens in every generation, you know, like it happened in the 60s, it happened back then. I would guarantee you that a lot of what was burned in the Library of Alexandria was pharmacology stuff, because there's a lot of combinations that we don't know what they do in the mind. We don't know the effect they have. And I experienced a lot of that firsthand with some of the psychedelics that I tried and that I experimented with. And yeah, they're a double-edged sword. So, you got to be responsible with them. What else? What else? Okay, so from Matt, Pavel, thoughts on the Lockheed Martin hack and information to be shared tomorrow, apparently. A lot of expos today on it. I just saw a little bit of it, but I'm going to look at it after I close this because that seems to be the news of the day. If there's something of substance there, I will report on it. Okay, what else? What a question. Paul, are you working on talking to anyone about something you haven't shared with us yet? A lot. And a lot of that is not really mine to share initially. So I can't until it comes out. But yeah, a lot. I can't tell you though, and this is just like an exclusive here. I did post on one of these on X earlier today. I'm going to have on Friday Dr. Michael Masters, author of the extraterrestrial model and Identify Flying Objects, on the show. He's a Montana Tech academic with a tenure, and he has been investigating the phenomenon. And he's one of the most important voices in science when it comes to investigating the phenomenon that there are. He's an anthropologist. He's going to be on the show on Friday. A day before that, and I can now announce it because we already locked it in. And this is going to be a late night drop because we're going to do it in the evening. I'm going to have Jeffrey Nuccitelli coming back on the show. And we're going to talk about a lot. So you can expect for some fireworks to come out. Yep. Thank you for the question. What else? Somebody's asking about Epstein and UFOs. I think that until we get proper data on the Zorro Ranch, we're not going to know anything about that. If there's any connection to that, a lot of the data and evidence is there. Make of that what you will. Okay. What else? What else? Sandro Minuto adds, history teaches that changes never came from governments, but from single individuals influencing and activating the change. Don't you agree? Yes. Unfortunately, governments have gathered way too much power in recent centuries. So it's become more difficult to have a meaningful impact as an individual. But I do agree. Yeah. We still see that impact from individuals, from like music artists and film directors and all that. Most of it is not canalized enough, I think, but that's the same impact that could happen from somebody who's doing this, for example, and who's trying to get information out. And I do think that another avenue that could come where disclosure or some kind of confirmation could come would be from one of these channels. I think so, completely. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah. So, yeah, what else? From Nightmare Co. 666. What a name. Hey, Pavel, have you heard of Steve Mera? He's a parapsychologist, among other things. Him and Nathaniel Gillis are getting worried about it all. Steve told me to avoid the orbs I see. What do you think? I've actually spoken to Nathaniel quite a bit now. We had a really fun phone call at one time. Shout out to Nathaniel. Probably going to have him on the show eventually. I have looked at some of Mera's work. I do have to say that when I was investigating the tridactyls, I didn't like some of the things that he did when he covered that. Now that I'm away from the case, I choose to just not look at that aspect of his research and focus more on the on the more esoteric aspect of his research And I'm going to start looking at more of his videos too. But yeah, that I have that teeny bias. But I've never met the man. I'm sure he's a wonderful person. But yeah, I got to be transparent there. What else? The Decipher asks again, what are your thoughts on Credo Mutua and his findings on reptilian races? He shared South African traditions about the Chitori manipulating humanity. Is there truth to these legends? I don't know, man. I know that Josh from Polarity has covered this at length, so I would redirect you to his work, which is really good. But I don't know. I've seen the videos. I don't know what to make of it. And that's that. What else? From Jacoby Stone Cipher, do you think there's any authenticity to the idea that the phenomenon is ultimately a vast, multifaceted, and ancient artificial intelligence? Oh, you already asked this. Yeah. You asked it twice? Sorry, man. Okay, what else? What else? Do you have any proof or testimony about any of those arguments you can't share, but that it will shake the internet? I don't want to do that, man. I'm not that kind of guy. If I do get information firsthand myself, that's when I release it. If I get information from sources, I got to be really careful because I like taking care of my sources. So I can't do that. But I'll just say it won't get past the summer when a lot of this stuff is coming out. So you won't have to wait that long, really. But the momentum is picking up. Last week's interview with Matthew Brown did stir some shit up. I know that there are some of my collaborators who are currently in Washington working on some of this stuff. So that's as far as I can go. And I already said a little bit too much. So there you have it. What else? What else? What else? Hi, Pavel. From Bruno Pereira. Is the UAP cover-up linked to secret UAP agreements? And if disclosure could unleash dangerous consequences, negative part, do we still want full disclosure? Can we protect our loved ones? Dude, this is a loaded question because we don't really know. All we have right now is stories and people who claim to have evidence of these stories. I'm still waiting for the evidence to either drop or be presented at a court of law or something. But I don't know how to respond to this because this agreements part, it's certainly being talked about, but this is why I think we need confirmation, you know? Something that I did think about quite a bit is that if any of this is real and people from Legacy are not the bad guys, listen to this, not the bad guys. And they are reverse engineering stuff because they see a threat and they're trying to fight against the clock while simultaneously hiding whatever they're working on, not from us, from them. That's an interesting situation, isn't it? And that changes the whole optics of this thing and of the legacy programs that are being talked about. Not sure if that's the case, but that's something that has crossed my mind before. And I don't know. I can't rule it out either, you know? What if the reason they're hiding stuff is because they don't want them to find out what we got now for a potential kinetic something. I'm saying this extremely in speculation. I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything. Just making that abundantly clear. It's just something that I've ruminated about for a while. What if, you know? Yeah, that's daunting. I know. What else? What else? Track says, "Hey pal, why can we as a community find people who can actually have a connection with the others? I believe that they are for sure watching all of this unfold, even the online things. You think so?" Um, I don't know if that's the case though. I know that there's a lot of people that claim to have communication. I even have some kind of weird interaction myself, throughout my entire life almost. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if those are the others or something else, or I have no idea. No, and again, and I know that I sound like a broken record, but that's why we need confirmation. Because if we don't get any confirmation, we're gonna just keep asking questions like this without getting a straight answer. And we're gonna keep listening to the more outlandish theories, choosing to whether believe it or not, but still not getting a proper, straightforward answer. And to me, that's what's frustrating, really. Um, we need to take that first step first before we go to any of this, really. What else? Oh, man. Ooh. Do you recall the Dr. Kit Green recently released recording with remote viewer about California UAP to human experience? Some thought it was Tom DeLonge, but maybe it was yesterday guest Ryan. No, it wasn't. This remote viewer, I don't know if it was a lady, but this was released by Dan, or re-released by Dan, because it was already out there. I think Joe Murgia also released it before. Very interesting exchange between Dr. Kit Green and this remote viewer. They talked about underwater bases and a lot of really interesting stuff. I think that that was one of the most important releases of 2025, even though it's a re-release, because it does paint a more accurate picture of whatever Dr. Kit Green is up to. And I know that he doesn't like being talked about, but I don't care. Whatever is happening here, he is one of the people that knows more, and people need to keep asking him questions and trying to draw him out. That's what I think. I think Dr. Nolan is also one of those people. Although he's more public, but yeah, he's like very stoic and doesn't give you anything really. Whenever he does, he breaks the internet because he knows some shit. I think they should be more straightforward about it, unless they are protecting us from something they know. That's the only caveat that I use. What else? We're about 10 minutes away from the end of this live stream, people. What else? What's your thoughts on NHI being AI from Paris Diamonds? Possible? I don't know. Maybe AI was reached and they figured out time travel, and that's what we've been dealing with this entire time. Could be anything, really. Yeah. Which one? Somebody asks if I can expand on my personal experience. Which one? I've had several. I had NDEs. I had multiple psychedelic experiences. I had multiple ego deaths. I had an experience with a shaman when I was 13, 14. Something happened with something that I can only describe as a shadow being that I think I dreamt it, but it turned me to my side when I was about or in danger of dying in my vomit. And when I woke up, there was a lot of vomit, and I was really drunk the night before. And I dreamt that some shadow being that was sort of like a feminine presence, grabbed me and put me on my side. And when I woke up, there was puke all over. Had I not turned on my side, I would have probably died of my vomit. There's another one where somebody was shot just 2 minutes after I moved my car from that specific spot. And I was sleeping, something woke me up, and I was in a hurry to move my car. That was all I could think about when I woke up. I moved my car, and 2 minutes later, somebody was shot dead right there. 8 shots. So I have no idea if that means anything. It just gives me chills every time I think about it, every time I remember it. And a lot of that stuff keeps happening to me. And I have no idea. That's why I'm doing this, trying to find answers to that. So yeah. What else? Thanks for answering my questions, pals. Thank you for the super chat. Love your work. Maybe we get a piece in the history books for us trying to find out what the fuck's going on. Hopefully, man. Hopefully, yeah. The grassroots movement is important in here, and citizen science, I think, is going to drive this. And people like Reed Summers are trying to do their part in that. I applaud Reed for what he's doing. He's way more diplomatic than I am, because whenever I see like shady shit, even from pro disclosure people, I like to call it out. And I know that that probably closed some doors for me, but it's just something that I have to do, you know? And I know that I probably should be more diplomatic. I'm going to Contact in the Desert. I'm going to try to be diplomatic there. I don't know if I will succeed though, but I'll try. I'll try my best. What else? What else? Before we leave. Interesting question here. Did the singularity actually happen in 2012? Sort of feels like it, doesn't it? I don't know. A lot of Mandela effects happening all over. So who knows? I did speak to Dr. Rizwan Virk on the show, and we talked about this. And yeah, sometimes it does feel like something did shift back then. I don't know what, but yeah, it feels weird. Okay, what else? Man, there's a lot of comments. Thank you for being here with us, man. I love you guys. I think that this live stream setup in this format is going to keep evolving. It's going to remain in a beta sort of state constantly, because I'm just going to keep adding and taking out stuff as we go along. If you have any suggestions on how to do or something to add or whatever, please let me know. Just remember, I'm a one-man show still for now. I did get help from Mr. Justin, and I just named Mama Chola a mod. But that's about as much help as I get right now, because I don't have the resources that other channels do. I'm trying to get there. Hopefully in the future, my goal is to eventually get people here to Tijuana for interviews, show them around, get them drunk the night before, get them well fed, get them to eat the best tacos in the world, and then do an interview on the next day. That's the dream for me. I would love to be able to do that. And I think it can happen. I really do. But I'm going to keep those formats of the smaller episodes of the news pieces. I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep doing interviews. I think that what we're doing together on Night Shift is going to make waves. I think that we're getting a wonderful team together. It's Clint, it's Sander, it's Dan Cleary, it's Justin himself, it's Mr. Cole Watkins. We're getting a really cool team together. I know that also Chris Ramsey supports what we're doing. Jesse Michael supports what we're doing. Gerb, I love Gerb. Rob Jones, Kermit, all of those people are wonderful people. And I think that that group alongside others that are also like new blood. That's what we're gonna. That's what's gonna try and make something happen and create a community, because I think that's important. There's way too much division in ufology, and it's been historical. Like it's always been like that, and that also needs to change. If we want change, we need to do things differently. And it seems like in ufology, we haven't for decades. There's always something happening. There's always someone fighting. There's always accusations. There's always toxicity. And I think that what we're doing at Doomer Friday is fighting against that, the toxicity. I do want to clarify something about the Doomer word, because, yeah, we came up with the Doomer Friday show. But before Doomer Friday, there was the Doom Room from Doomer Daddy and French, people from UFO Twitter. They're the original Doomers. I just gotta clarify that. I don't think there should be even a competition for that. I think it's stupid. They do wonderful spaces about Doom. They have a lot of really cool guests. They've had Jason Giorgiani on. They have many guests. And the thing is, that type of Doom is kind of scary to me. So initially, I did reject it a little bit, and I still feel like it's scary. But I think that's what Doom is. Doomer Friday is a little different in tone. We joke a lot more, even though we do talk about Doom a lot. But it's a different energy, I think, and it's a matter of taste. There's a lot of people that like what Ulrich and French do, and they do really cool work. They do scare me a little bit, if I'm honest with you. But shout out to both, and Just too. Wonderful. Okay. From Huskers, the interview yesterday with Ryan was one of your top 5 episodes, in my opinion. Keep up the great work, brother. We love you. I love you too. And thank you for saying that. That's really nice. But I do have over 1,000 episodes, and I did love that interview quite a bit. But there are a lot of wonderful interviews that I really adore. The one that I think I keep closer to my heart because of the Jacobo Grimberg connection is not even that much seen or watched. It doesn't have many views. I think it has like barely over 1,000 views. It would be really cool if you guys saw that. It's the interview that I did while driving from Ensenada to Tijuana, talking to director Ida Cuellar about his documentary, The Secret of Dr. Grimberg. And we talked about the Stargate program and how Jacobo may have been connected to it. And it was a really cool moment when we were going through Rosarito, which is a town between Ensenada and Tijuana, where Jacobo Grimberg's wife, who is accused of being responsible for his disappearance, used to live. So right when we were talking about her, we were going past that town, which was a really interesting moment for me. And I've managed to get a lot of really cool friendships along the way. Greg Malozzi from the Cosmic Clock, Ida connected us, and I think that what he's doing is also very important. He's sitting on a gold mine of information. It's not just the Puharich tapes. He got a hold of the Don Elkins tapes of the raw material. He just released a video on it yesterday, I think. So there are a lot of, I mean, I love everything that I'm doing. I enjoy it. Maybe I fucked it up a bunch of times. I'm pretty sure that I did, but I really couldn't choose one specific episode. That one with Ida is amongst my favorite, and it's one of the least watched. But thank you for saying that. Thank you. Okay, a little bit of water here. Okay, let me see if we have a few more. Shout out to Heidi for the super chat. The email address that I have is in the channel's description. You can go there where the count of the views is, and there's an option there to see my email. That's how you can do it. I'll be waiting for that email. Thank you. And what else? Just the final super chats. These live streams rock. Keep it up. Thank you, Huskers. Thank you for the super chat. And I think that's going to be it, guys. I want to thank you for your time. Everybody in the chat for behaving, for being absolutely wonderful people. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I am going to put the promo for the anomalous cards here. But until next time, remember, stay curious and inquisitive like Dr. John Mack. Always. Bye, people. Love you.